I never thought humiliation would smell like cheap coffee and floor cleaner. But that's exactly what it smelled like the morning my life cracked open. I was standing at the return counter of a discount grocery store on the east side of Dayton, Ohio, holding a dented can of baby formula I couldn't afford to keep. My hands were shaking, not because of the cold, but because there were people behind me in line, people pretending not to stare while absolutely staring. And then I felt it. That sudden pressure in your chest when you know someone is looking at you. Really looking. I turned my head, and that's when I saw him. Ethan Cole. The man who used to be my husband. The man everyone called a genius. The man who once told me to my face that I would never survive without him. Let me rewind a bit because that moment didn't come out of nowhere. It was built brick by brick. Insult by insult, decision by decision. Years earlier, Ethan and I looked perfect from the outside. He was the golden boy of fintech, founder of a startup that exploded overnight, always in tailored suits, always talking about scale and disruption. I was the quiet one, a substitute teacher who still believed stories mattered, who still packed homemade lunches and wrote handwritten notes. He used to say that was cute, the way you say it about a child or a hobby you don't take seriously. At first, I ignored the tone. Love does that to you. Then came the jokes at dinner parties. Claire's great with kids, not so much with ambition. Everyone laughed. I smiled because that's what supportive wives do. When I got pregnant, I thought maybe things would change. Maybe he'd slow down. Instead, he sped up. More travel, more meetings, more nights where he came home smelling like hotel soap and indifference. The night I told him I was scared, really scared about becoming a mom, mostly alone. He sighed like I just asked him to fix a leaky faucet. "You wanted this," he said. "And don't worry, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Not us, me, taken care of, like an expense." When the baby was 3 months old, he left. Not in a dramatic way. No yelling, no slammed doors, just a neatly folded note on the counter and a lawyer who called before he did. The divorce was efficient, brutal. He kept the penthouse, the company, the narrative. I kept my son a small apartment and a settlement that looked generous on paper until real life started charging interest. That's how I ended up in that grocery store returning formula. Because rent went up. Because my hours were cut. Because my pride didn't pay bills. And because sometimes survival forces you to do things that break something inside you. I was about to hand the can over when I heard his voice. Calm. Polished. Exactly how I remembered it. Claire. He said my name like it was a question, like he wasn't sure he wanted the answer. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I noticed how out of place he was. Designer coat. Expensive watch. Standing under flickering fluorescent lights next to a clearance rack of cereal. "Wow," he said, eyes drifting to my son in the carrier, then to the counter. "Didn't expect to see you here." That's when the cashier spoke up. "Ma'am, the return will go through, but you'll need to put the formula back on the shelf." My throat closed. Ethan smiled just slightly. "You know," he said loud enough for the people behind us to hear, "I always wondered how long it would take." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just cleanly. I turned to him and said, "How long for?" "What?" He shrugged. "For reality to hit. You always thought love and ideals were enough." He reached for his wallet. "Here, let me take care of it." And there it was. The same sentence. Different day. I pushed his hand away. "No," I said. "I'm not your project." His smile faded. "Don't be dramatic. You can't even afford formula." The cashier shifted uncomfortably. People were watching now. My face burned, but my voice didn't shake. "You're right," I said. "I can't afford formula today, but I can afford my dignity, and you don't get to buy that." I picked up my son, walked out and sat in my car until my hands stopped shaking. I cried, yeah. I won't pretend I didn't, but I also did something else. I decided that was the last time anyone would see me that small. The weeks that followed were brutal. I took on extra tutoring. Nights, weekends, anything. I applied for grants, assistance programs, scholarships. I didn't think I'd qualify for. I studied after my son fell asleep, eyes burning brain foggy, telling myself over and over just one more chapter, one more day. Then, slowly, things shifted. I got accepted into a credential program that offered a stipend. A community center offered childcare in exchange for teaching evening classes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. A year later, I was invited to speak at an education innovation panel. Funny how life works. The topic was equitable learning access. Guess who was on the panel too, Ethan? He didn't recognize me at first. Different haircut, straighter posture, confidence you earn, not borrow. Then our eyes met. I saw it hit him hard. During Q&A, someone asked about success and failure. Ethan gave his usual polished answer about resilience and strategy. When it was my turn, I said, "Failure is being told you can't survive without someone then believing it. Success is proving them wrong quietly, one hard day at a time." The room went silent. Then applause. Real applause. Afterward, he approached me. "You look different," he said. I smiled. "So do you. Guess life teaches both of us." He glanced at my badge. "Senior education consultant. Didn't think you'd end up here." I know I said. That's kind of the point. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Because winning doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like peace. A small house, a son who laughs easily, a job that matters. Ethan never apologized. Not really. But I didn't need it anymore. The funny thing is, the people who once looked at me with pity now ask for advice. And the man who thought money made him untouchable learned that control isn't the same as strength. So let me ask you something. When society decides who's valuable based on status, money, or power, who gets left behind? And how many people do we underestimate every single day just because they're struggling out loud? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know. When you were underestimated, what did you do next?